Hey y'all, it's your girl Booney, and you're listening to the Booney Breakdown Podcast, your source for all things responsible and ratchet. All right, welcome back for another episode of the Booney Breakdown Podcast. My name is Booney, I'm your host, and I'm excited to be back. This is a good one. You guys know, if you've been following the pod for a little while, that I have a hit list of people that I would love to get on. And then, I love guests when one, they're either someone I know in real life, or two, they're a soror of mine. And so this week's guest is Dr. Candice Nicole. She is a leading expert in sex research. Her debut book, Good Sex, was just published this month, February 2025, and we have a really, really amazing conversation. I learned some things. She even questioned me and made me answer some questions in this episode. But we talk about her new book, Good Sex. What is good sex? And how we can work to close the orgasm gap. She even shared some tidbits that she found interesting in her sex research. And, we just get caught up on some thought-provoking questions. Do you want to know what erotic equity is? Then you want to stick around and listen to the conversation. All right, we're going to hop right into this week pick of the week. My pick of the week this week is Paradise on Hulu. Y'all better not make fun of me. I hope I didn't say it with a Baltimore accent, but it is one of the best new TV shows I've watched in a while. What Paradise does well, and it's like Sterling K. Brown is in it. I'm trying to think, is anyone else? Oh, the lady who from Sex Life, that horrible show on Netflix, she's in it as well. I don't think I know too many of the other folks in it. But Sterling K. Brown, and we get to see his gorgeous body, his gorgeous face. But what the show does really well, that I think is missing from some shows, they do cliffhangers really well. And they do a good job of setting where you are currently in the story, but using the flashbacks to put the meat on the skeleton. 10 out of 10 so far. I've really, really enjoyed watching. Over in our Patreon Discord, we have a TV spoilers thread, and we've been talking about it over there. But I really, really do enjoy the show. I saw it was picked up for season 2. So I'm curious how many episodes are left and what the final cliffhanger is going to be of the season. Because when I say they do cliffhangers really well, I really mean like at the end of every episode, there is like this big momentous, like you really be like, I didn't see that coming. And for me, you can, Mama Ratchet will tell you guys, I can guess the plot lines a lot of the times watching stuff. This one, they be throwing me for a loop, so I'm all in. So check it out. Let me know what you think about Paradise on Hulu.
Housekeeping.
Come back later, please.
Housekeeping.
Not now.
All right, so we kicked off season 14 again with our problematic fave, Brian. Got a lot of comments and questions about the episode. So many of you could not believe our 2 listener letters, much like Brian and I could not believe them either. But somebody was like, this was the laugh that I needed in the space of heaviness that we're currently living in. Thanks, Brian and Booney, for always making me laugh and have a good kiki with my friends on the internet. So you're welcome. If you haven't checked out last week's episode, head on back, check it out with our problematic fave. Also, I did a code last week for merchandise over on thebooniebreakdown.com/shop, and I forgot to activate the code. So the code season 14, season 14 is live now. You can save 20% on all orders over $30. So apologies. I thought I said it live, but it'll be live for a couple extra weeks now, but head on over to get your merch. Also, Patreon, we're getting a book club. And, well, we already have the book club, but our next book club session, That's what I meant to say. Our next book club session will be March 25th. And guess what we're reading? Good Sex by this week's guest, Dr. Candice Nicole. And the good thing about it, Dr. Candice Nicole has agreed to come to our session to talk about the book. So if you love this episode, you get the book, you want to join Patreon and hop in the book club, you can head on over to patreon.com/the Boonie Breakdown to join and sign up to get in the book club. I appreciate everyone who went over and you shared the reels this week. You guys did good. I need you guys to keep doing that to help boost my engagement. That is such a cost-free, easy way that you can help support one of your favorite podcasts. Just share the damn reels to your story or send it to your friend. Put it in a group chat. You know what else? Somebody just mentioned that listener, the heaviness in the world. You know what the heaviness of the world? I forgot that it was our 8th anniversary of the podcast last week. Happy birthday to me. Totally forgot. And so with that, I just want to ask to help us out. If you listen to the podcast in Spotify, can you hit those 5 stars? If you listen to Apple Podcasts, can you hit those 5 stars? Wherever you listen, can you rate it 5 stars? Leave a review. That helps. Over on Spotify, you can leave reviews. I respond to the comments that people leave for an episode. I respond to them all. So I just really just want to boost and help me boost my engagement. I really appreciate you, Ratcheteer Gang. I mean, it really helps. And I know you don't think of it as helping, but specifically sharing and putting me in front of new faces helps me grow and reach someone who may not know about me. All right. So that is it for me. So let's get ready to break it down. All right, everybody. So we have a good guest tonight. I'm excited for this conversation. I want to welcome Dr. Candice Nicole to the Boonie Breakdown. Welcome.
Hey, how you doing?
And, it's good. We're hanging in there. I'm
Yep,
looking
yep.
forward to this conversation. I don't know if you know this about me, but I have a hit list of people that I want to get on the pod. And so
No, I never knew that.
You've been on my list for a while. Like I've had Goody and I've had all of these great people. And I'm just like, it's not enough time. So
That's
I
right.
delayed my season. This was supposed to happen last year, but I had a car accident and a
Oh
concussion and it was a
no.
lot. So I'm finally happy to get you here.
Well, I'm happy to be here because I'll be excited to be on people's podcasts.
Really?
I love it. I like talking to people, to good people, especially about sex and all the things.
So let's get to it about sex and all the things. I want to say, you heard her credentials, you heard the bio, but I love people who are real deal. Like, you can back it up. Like, you could talk your shit, but then you back it up with your science and facts. Like, we
That's
have
right.
degrees.
That's right.
So I love it. Okay. First thing first, you are a sex researcher.
Yes.
What's one of the craziest sex facts you found out or discovered in your research? Something that most people would be like, what? I didn't know that. Or something that blew
Listen,
your
I'm so
mind.
happy you asked me this question because I just collected data for my large scale study on Black and white women's sexual functioning and their romantic partners, right? So we got 1,000 women, 500 Black women, 500 white women, and all their romantic partners, all the genders, all the sexual identities. And of course, we collected these data right after the presidential election.
Oh.
So I had to slide a question in there related to that because I was just really sitting with all of everything that came with that. So I was like, who'd you vote for? I'm just curious to see how it falls out related to the poll data. So I asked about sexual satisfaction, sexual pleasure,
Oh.
orgasm, relationship satisfaction, all the good stuff. May I let you know that women who voted for Trump have higher sexual satisfaction, sexual pleasure, and relationship satisfaction than women who voted for Harris.
That is shocking.
That face that you had is the face that I have as a scientist.
That is shocking because you picture a typical voter and supporter, and you would
And you
think
think about
they're buttoned up and so conservative and But they out here getting their rocks off and having a good
But
time.
so I got some theories about it though. Okay, so
Yes.
there's a couple of ways to see it. One, people who voted for Harris are worried. Their sexual worry is higher. And
Mhm.
sexual worry and concern based on our reproductive injustices makes sense that you would have lower satisfaction and lower pleasure, right? So to me, I'm like, I kind of get that, even though I don't like the way that maths. I don't like that at all. But I'm gonna report what I see as a scientist and provide my interpretation. But then I was just digging into research because I'm curious about how all this came to be. Also, on the relationship satisfaction, I'm like, dang, are you enjoying your relationship better too? Your relationship. So, word on the science street is that conservative women be mine. And
Oh.
because of their tendency to impression manage, they might report greater satisfaction or happiness than they actually feel. This is what an article in Science says. So I'm trying to weigh the results of this self report with those results. But either way, I want women to have the sex lives they want, the
Yes.
relationships they want. And I especially want it for people who voted the way I voted. So I'm like, okay.
And I especially want it for people who look like me.
And that's
I had an episode with Dr. Shamika, and we talked about
my
generation.
favorite sex researcher.
Yeah, we talked about generational the learned behavior that's passed through generations and how that has affected Black women and their sex lives and their sex ideology and what they believe, and it's just so doing this podcast, and when I put these episodes out, it's women in my DMs, and they're always like, I've never had an orgasm, I've been married 14 years and my husband's never pleased me. And it's like the one question I'll ask some of them is like, well, do you voice that? And it's usually no.
Voice that.
They don't say anything. So they're like suffering in silence and not being pleased or experiencing any pleasure with somebody that they are emotionally and physically connected to. And it's astounding, but I love having these conversations because it's like I want to tackle that.
It's the suffering in silence that messes with me too. Like, dang, you can't have pleasure in your home, in your life, in your bedroom, in your closet, whatever. Like, I hate that.
I hate that too. I did not. That's not the fact I thought you were going to
I
share.
know,
I don't
right?
know what it was going to be,
It's
but
not the fact that I also thought I was going to share. So,
So how did you find yourself in this space? How did you become, interested in doing sex research and becoming a thought leader in that space?
I really started early, very early, like 8, 9 years old, reading my grandmother's Encyclopedia Britannica and trying to figure out when I was going to get boobs. Like, I've been interested in sexual development for a very long time in different ways. Because I was very precocious as a kid. And, I grew up in a family where I didn't feel like I could initiate those conversations around sex, even though everybody was having sex. Like,
Mhm.
there are tons of kids, tons of, people having sex. But it just didn't seem like that was the type of conversation we could have in the family. So I was looking it up, reading Cosmo magazine,
Oh, Cosmo.
trying to learn what I could learn. Found a stash of VHS porn tapes, trying to learn what I could learn, like from very early on. But I didn't know it could be a career. And it wasn't until I got to grad school and I knew I wanted to learn more about sex and study sex. And so I was thinking I wanted to be a sex therapist. And then one of my mentors was like, I think you might want to pursue a PhD and do some research. And I didn't even know that was an option. And once I realized I could be both, yeah, it was up and stuck from there. So being able to do the research side and the like psychology side has really been like a joy.
That's that's interesting. So, okay, I will get into the psychology piece a little later. What as you navigate this space and you encounter women or in your research or with your clients, what's like the biggest takeaway that you wish you could just put it on a billboard on 95 for everybody to see? Like, what is that one piece that you want people to like take away with their sex lives or even like intimacy?
Hmm. It's kind of related to what you just talked about with women being in relationships and not experiencing the pleasure um, that they're worthy of. Pleasure worthiness would be the thing that I would bring to her, like reminding people that you're not entitled to anything. I hate pleasure entitlement or any type of entitlement, but you're worthy of all the things you desire. And the difference between that is people who feel entitled go get what they want without consent, without
Mm.
any care. With like they're just like, it's mine, I'm entitled to it, I'm gonna have it by any means necessary. Whereas people who understand their worthiness, they make their pleasure their responsibility and an invitation to their partner. It's like, I am going to enjoy pleasure because that is what I want to do and that's what I'm worthy of. But I would love for you to be a part of this experience with. And I wish more people, but especially women, could remember that about themselves. And it's really tied to inherent worthiness. Like, do you feel inherently worthy as a human being? And a lot of us don't. A lot of us be struggling with that idea that without working or without whatever other people think makes us important, that we're inherently worthy.
Yeah. I remember that own journey for myself, right? Like, I think I've shared on this podcast before about like, I can remember the moment, the person I was with, and I was like, I was not enjoying that sexual encounter,
Mm,
and I had not been, but I was faking it before.
yeah.
And
Yep.
I remember the moment when I was just like, I'm not doing this anymore. Like, he's sitting here having the time of his life, and I'm miserable, right? And it's like, I deserve to have just as good of a time as he's having. And I think
What
for me,
changed for you? What was it that shifted?
I think honestly, I remember he was on this little we go there. He was on top. And I just remember looking at he had just such joy in his face. And I just remember being like, I hate every second of this.
Oh, no.
And it was just like, what is happening? Like, and I was like, what? It was
I
just
want
such
to
an
look like
extreme
this.
yeah, like it was just such an extreme disconnect looking back at it. And I was like, at that moment, I was like, this is it. I'm not doing it anymore. And I remember having the conversation and I remember being scared. I was like in my 20s being like,
Mm,
I didn't like that. And I want you to do this. And then it was like, but you liked it all those other times. And then it had to, the snowball. But I just think it's something
yeah.
that was just like, I want to enjoy this just as much as he is.
Mm-hmm.
And it was just that simple for me. And ever since then, I think that was me like taking ownership. Like, I deserve to have pleasure in all of these sexual experiences that I
Did he
embark
ever get it
on.
together? Did the partner ever get it together, or did they just stay in defensiveness?
Try, but it was like he was just so defensive about it, right?
Yeah.
Like it was taking an ego hit instead
Yeah.
of being
Yeah.
like, oh, well, we can get there. Let's just figure it out. It was a big ego hit. And I felt
Yeah.
like, I don't know. Maybe I felt like at the time I was very sensitive
Mm-hmm.
and mindful of the words, but as a 40-year-old, maybe I would have definitely said some things different now, but I mean, that happens as you learn and grow.
Mm-hmm.
So, but yeah, now it's just like it's just a non-negotiable for me at this point.
Yeah. And people need to be open to hearing, like, if someone says they didn't enjoy something, you can change.
Mm,
Like, you can change what you're doing. Y'all can figure it out together. And it doesn't have to be this, like, you're attacking my character and my selfhood.
yeah. It's I want that for more women, but I get
Mm-hmm.
it, it's scary, right?
Yeah.
And so I think, having these conversations and getting the tools of how to center yourself or find the words to say or tap into what you're feeling makes a difference. The piece you said about worthiness, right? Like, I think that's work that people have to do to say, I'm worthy of receiving pleasure or having pleasurable experiences. So that's pretty deep. You have a book coming out that I
Yeah.
pre-ordered. Well, it'll be
Thank
out by the
you.
time this episode airs.
Okay.
So, the book Good Sex. What's it about? Like, what's your that's your baby.
It
So, like, what
is.
did
It's my
you
little book baby.
and this is your first book, right?
It is. It's my debut book.
Congrats.
It's my little book baby. It comes out February 4th. So like you said, it'll be out when
Yes.
when y'all hear it. and I got to write the book that I wanted to write.
That's awesome.
So I feel delighted to have been able to write it. And basically, I'm walking through my research of hundreds of Black people who told me, if you could define good sex in 3 words, what are they? And they gave me their answers. And we took the top 20 and then kind of I told the story of each one as an ingredient to good sex. If good sex and sexual liberation is your menu, you get to curate your menu based on what sexual seasonings, if you will, are good for you. So like I start the introduction and I'm talking about like, you can have chicken wings, all drumettes fried hard, please, with with hot lemon pepper, or you can have it with like honey barbecue, right? But it's still chicken wings. So maybe oral sex is chicken and I want hot lemon pepper. And it's like maybe love and passion and pleasure are that seasoning for me. And so each one, I kind of tell stories of work that I've done with clients, like fictionalized versions of it.
Yeah.
Give some science about that particular seasoning, and then give some strategies and keep it real with the idea that it's not like you read this strategy and voila, your sex life is now passionate. It's like you're going to have to practice because sexual liberation is a practice.
Yeah. So what does sexual liberation mean to you?
It means that everybody has access to sex that is good to and for everyone involved. And you got access to all those ingredients because I guess the way I'm writing about it is we have this unseasoned sex menu that most of us got imposed on us. So you get these cultural recipes from white men, wealthy white men from the 15th century
Mhm.
about what sex should be. And it's such a little tiny window of what sex can be. And then the more you grow and evolve, like you were just describing, like 20-year-old you to 40-year-old you get exposed to new things. Maybe you get curious and you start learning. And then you realize all of these other options are out there. But then because of intimate injustice, you can't even access some of those things.
Mm.
And so sexual liberation is about making your pathway to that access. So releasing a lot of the things that hold us back, like shame, um, being able to ask partners for what we need, having erotic equity in the places where you enjoy sex, all of that is kind of woven in there. And it sounds like a Black woman academic wrote it because I really I really wanted to make sure that all of the other books that are about sex that I've read, a large majority of them are written by white women, and some of them
Mhm.
I love. Like I enjoy the books, and also there's a standpoint that maybe they might be missing because they move through the world as white women. And so my standpoint gets introduced right in the beginning, like, hey, I'm a Black woman writing this, and I'm using research with people with marginalized identities and their studies. And, my research participants are Black. And in the same way you take a white woman's book and think it's generalizable, you could do the same with this. And if you
Yeah.
find that I've missed the mark on something that's relevant to you, I hope you write that book one day.
I love that. I like the definition of sexual liberation because it's multifaceted, right? When you hear it, most people will interpret that as they wanna be a hoe, right? Like, just boiling it down, right? Like,
And that
she
could be
is
that
free,
if you want that.
right? But, like, I like how you said it, like, if that's for you, then that's for you. But I think people really oversimplify it and just saying like, "Oh, she's so sexually free. She just wanna be a hoe," and okay, hoe must stay to her. Like, we're okay with that
Right.
here. Yeah, but
And you can be a hoe and be sexually constricted, and you could be a hoe and be sexually liberated.
that part. That part, yeah. So I think people like, especially with sex in particular, well, I guess a lot of things, but sex really, people like to put people in boxes and keep it there, right? Like, and the more I do this podcast, the more conversations I have, the more I read, it's like the lines are slow blurred, and I think people can enjoy themselves more if they would erase the box a little bit.
Mhm. Mhm.
And I think we have these preconceptions of, oh, that's why people should, or that's that. But like you enjoy, explore. It may not be for me. Like some of the people I've had on my podcast, I'm like, Woo, okay. But it's
That's for
interesting to
you.
me. Yeah, that's
Hmm.
not for me, but that's interesting. If somebody out here might be like, I didn't know I liked knife play, or I can't remember the latex fetish, but all that stuff. And so I like your definition of sexual liberation. I hope
Thank
that freed
you.
somebody.
Oh,
But
thank you so much.
I'm circling back. You said erotic equity. Can we break
Hmm.
that down a little bit more?
Yeah, because it's not like a tit for tat thing, right? It's not like I did this thing to you, you do this exact thing for me. But it's like, is there some harmony? Is there some balance in how you and if your partner approach the sexual experience?
Okay.
Do you have that give and take? Do you understand what fairness means to each other? Do you attend to what is good to them and for them the same way they attend to what is good to you and for you? And
Okay.
we live in a context where, and especially now, there are so many systems of oppression. Can I cuss? Do you feel comfortable?
Yes.
Oh, okay,
Yes.
cool. So many systems of oppression fucking up our sex lives. And I want to always put that on the table, like racism, classism, heterosexism, ageism, sizeism, all of these things are trying to fuck you up and fuck your sexual menu up. And at least you and your partner can play it different. If the world is going to still world, can you can you and your partner find grounds for equity and liberation together? And if not, can you find it with yourself? Because solo sex is an option for sexual liberation too.
Now, you said a lot there. One, solo sex, it's amazing to me also how many people, that stigma around solo sex and masturbation, like, what? And I think it was Dr. Shamika's conversation too, where I was saying, like, I remember the first time I was aware of pleasure down there, and it
Hmm.
wasn't even anything sexual. I think it was just like squeezing my legs really tight when I was like a
Yes.
child. And I was like, oh,
Like, hey,
that
hey
just
now,
felt different,
look
right?
at what my body can do, you
Yeah,
know?
like I didn't know what was happening or what it was, but it just felt different. And but then it was like got older, like, oh, that's what that was. So when hear people who are like 40, 50, who like never touched themselves, never explored any type of solo sex, I couldn't fathom.
You know what's wild? So in that same data set that I talked about in the beginning, I was looking at what percentage of women reported masturbating in the past year. And it was like 45% had not. And I was like, what? So things surprise me every day as a sex researcher because to not have masturbated in a calendar year, I was surprised that the percentage was so high.
That is kind of astounding. And especially as I'm talking to people in my circle, not in my circle, followers on the podcast, and there's a large swath of women who are not having sex, actively having sex, and they haven't for a while. So then it's like you also are not doing it with yourself. Like, how are you? That's why you stressed up.
In real talk, because the health promoting benefits of masturbation, you know what I'm saying? Like sleep better, confidence, body feeling good, pleasure, your cardiovascular health looking better. Like, so me and Dr. Shamika co-authored two papers about masturbation messages that Black women receive and that Black men receive. And the paper that she led was called From Sin to Sexual Self-Awareness, and talking about how Black women get these messages early on. Masturbation is nasty and it's a
Mm.
sin, and good girls don't, and all of this. And as we evolve and grow and mature, listening to podcasts like yours, or being exposed to some really dope sex educators, or maybe more sex positive people in your life, you begin to realize how normal it is, and then how it can help you become more sexually self-aware. Similar for Black men. Well, Black boys
Mhm.
get messages more so that they're inadequate if they have to masturbate. So they get the sin messages like it's not of God, but they get a lot more like if you gotta masturbate, then that
Oh,
means
yeah.
that you ain't getting no girls. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And then they evolve and realize very similar things too, but their percentage of masturbation is higher than that. And so,
Mm.
there's some gender differences in that regard.
Yeah. So you have children.
Mhm.
How do you talk to your children about, are they of that age where you're talking to them?
Always of that age.
Yeah.
I believe people are always of that age. So you have different conversations at different developmental
Mhm.
stages. I have a baby that just turned 1, and I have the son who's about to turn 6. And so the baby just turned 1. He's finding where his penis is now. He's like, when you take this diaper off, let me see what's down there. Oh my goodness, look at this. I'm like, wow, you found a penis. That's your penis, and just affirming for him that that's a part of your body, just like your toes, just like your legs. What can it do? He doesn't even have expressive language yet, but he's
Mhm.
understanding what those body parts are, possibly what they can do, that whenever the diaper comes off, he can reach it, usually he can't. And it's like, oh, this is cool. Another thing I'm discovering. At like 6, we're having conversations about good touch, bad touch,
Mhm.
who has access to your body, what privacy is, what consent is. Like, yet the green light, red light game with tickling, it's like, you say red light, the tickling stops. It doesn't matter if, like, I want to keep tickling,
I
all of
love
those
that.
things.
Yeah. Yeah,
So
'cause
those are
so
the
yeah, as children,
conversations.
you feel like you don't have, like, autonomy over your body, right? Like, I can remember being like, the creepy uncle,
Yes.
and they're like, "Don't kiss me, but you go hug Uncle Charles," you know? And it's like, "I don't want to." So I love that it's language for kids now to say,
Yeah.
"No, I don't want to,"
It's
That's
like, I
amazing.
always ask, do you want to give them a hug, a high five, or just wave? And then he can decide.
Yeah, I had to, as a baby, I had to unlearn too, like, my little nephews, they're getting older, and I was so used to always like, "My little baby," like, and I'm trying to be like, "They're gonna be young men. They're young men now," and I
Yeah.
have to, like, let them go. If they don't wanna hug Auntie A, they don't have to hug Auntie
Yeah.
A.
And we can deal with our feelings about that, our sadness and grief, like, because
Yeah,
you mourn that the little baby they used to be, but we also respect their emerging autonomy.
and it was, like, the last time I saw, like, one came directly and hugged me. The other one sat in the chair, and I'm like, "Okay."
Yep.
I
Going
respect
to
it.
cry one Denzel tear and then
Yeah,
be
I
like,
can respect
cool.
it, I can respect it. So, with your book, where before we get too far, where can people buy your book? It'll be out one as they're listening to this, so they're hearing this amazing conversation, and they're gonna be like, "Let me go order it right now while I'm listening."
Yes, Ocaris Bookstore online. They sell it. I'm going to be doing a book talk with them in Atlanta on February 28th. I'm going to be doing a book talk at Kindred bookstores in Houston, Texas. They have online options. I like to I'm trying to start with the independent bookstores and the woman-owned bookstores and the
I love
black-owned
it.
bookstores, just because the sales mean so much more to them. You can also, of course, get it on Barnes and Noble and Amazon and anywhere books are sold, but those are the two places where I'm doing some book talks and who have welcomed me into their community, and so I want to show.
Awesome, love it. I hope you're pre-ordering, well, ordering at that point, not pre-ordering. Hope you're
Mhm.
ordering that book. Um, one thing following you on social, you always ask a little thought-provoking question or share some piece of, I won't say trivia, but some piece of research that I'm like, "Huh." So, it was one thing that I had screenshotted for when you came on. It was like, "Shout out to Black men. The smallest orgasm gap exists between Black women and men, but the
Mhm.
largest between white and Asian men and women." Good job, Black men. I knew the
Wasn't that a
orgasm.
whole interesting thing? Like, what?
Yeah, because 'cause I'm like,
I believe it though.
so here's the thing, I can't say I have much experience with the other races. So, yeah, I think, in my experience, I think I was a little shocked just because sometimes you can encounter the ego, but
Hmm.
it's
Hmm.
yeah, I was happy. that at least Black women and Black men have a smaller orgasm gap there.
Yes, and I got a chance to. So that was a research paper I was citing that I didn't write, but I can't wait to write up when I did this study. I asked Black women and their partners. So that paper, the research paper that I cited, was Black men at large and Black women at large, and they may or may not have been partnered with each other.
Okay.
I asked in the couple unit Black women and their partners, and I asked white women and their partners, and the gap was small. So even for people who are romantically involved for 2 years or more, for Black men and white men, the difference in the orgasm gap persists.
It's significant.
Mhm.
Shout out to Black men.
Shout-out.
The other thing, it was another question. I was like, I'm going to ask you,
Okay.
what are your sexual green flags?
Ooh, okay. I love someone who enthusiastically enjoys oral sex, giving and receiving, vocal, proud about it, like hungry for it. That's a green
Yes.
flag for me.
That's a good green
Someone who
flag.
takes their partner's pleasure seriously, not like based on their ego, but based on like it pleases them to provide pleasure. Yes. And thirdly, someone who invites their partner to take their time.
Oh, that's very specific, and I like it.
It is. It's like, you don't have to rush this. I'll be here all night with you until you're ready. Oh, what?
Yes, I
Love
like that one. Yeah, I was looking, I think it was on Threads, and I was reading people's answers like, okay. No.
What about for
I think
you?
so I think for me, a big sexual green flag would be you're present in the moment.
Yeah.
I don't like when it's like, okay, it gets robotic like, okay, I'm gonna tweak your nipple, I'm gonna do that. Like it's that same, but I like that you're here and it's just gonna flow. Like I can feel that you're present. I like that. Enthusiasm goes a long way for sure. I can't like you're happy that you're here. This is a sacred space and time. Like you should be happy that you're here. No, I really
Yes.
love the enthusiasm. And I think the other thing for me, I don't know if this is a green flag. Well, that's just gonna be like a like. Maybe that's not a green flag. I guess someone who's willing to experience new things.
Oh, yeah.
Cause I'm very curious. So I will try a lot, but I may not like it. So
That's
I might
right.
be like,
That's right.
but like if you're eager to explore and try, that's a big green flag for me.
And I like what you just said. Like, there's a difference between having a like and a green flag, because a green flag tells you something about their personality, right? That it expands a little bit broader than just the sexual experience. So when you say a person that's willing to try new things, they're open minded in general,
Yeah.
typically. When I say a person that enthusiastically enjoys pleasuring their partner, that means they're generous in
Yeah.
general.
That's
And
a
I love a
word.
generous man.
I love a generous man.
Mm.
I love a generous man. And I say that too because I was just talking to my friend about this and she was saying something. I was just like, no, the word I would use is generous. Yeah, because I'm just like, it's just you're a giver, right? Like,
Yeah.
and it doesn't run out.
Mm-hmm.
And I think too, people who are generous really get pleasure from giving,
Yeah.
right? They enjoy to do it versus just I'm like, yeah, giving and receiving. So yeah. But I loved the sexual green flags because so often we always center things around red flags,
Yes.
the dislikes. So when I saw that one, I said, oh. And
Mhm.
now I've added that. I was started talking because I think you posted that back in like December or something. And I was talking to somebody and I asked them the question, which it was nice to hear like them think about it.
What'd they
And
say?
I remember so what made me pick up on the like versus the green flag it's because the things he was saying were things that like acts. Like, I like someone to do this and to kiss me here. And I said, no, 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 no. I need a green flag, not things you like to be done to you. And his were no judgment. They're not judgmental. He said open. So I was like, okay, we kind of vibe there. And I can't remember what was the third one. I can't remember the third one right now. But I think he slipped back into that light category.
Yeah.
But I was like, okay, he was trying. But when he was saying it, I was like, yeah, that's how hard it was. Because I think he immediately went to, I want you to do this. I said, no, that's not what I asked. We'll get there. But but I thought that was such a great question because it is more behavior based, basically, not.
That's kind of like a disposition.
Yeah, that's the word. Yeah. So love that question. Love that question.
Thank
So
you.
we're at the part we're going to do the breakdown.
Okay.
I'm going to say a word. You say the first thing that comes to mind. It could be another word, a phrase, a sound, whatever. Okay. First one, Black women.
Us.
Dessert.
Okay. Grilled pound cake with caramel and a little ice cream on the side from Poor Calvin's.
That sounds delicious.
I just went last night, so that
sounds delicious. Liberation.
Freedom.
Orgasms.
Pleasurable.
Research.
Thoughts.
Wellness.
Whole.
Oprah.
Oh no, you know what's dope? I just got an op-ed accepted for Oprah Daily.
Oh my
And
God.
so thank you. It just, me and my husband was kind of like,
Oprah. It's Oprah. Last one, love.
I had us again, so for some reason. So maybe Black women.
Black women, we're everything. So, I'm going to say Dr. Candice Nicole. If you could tell everyone where they can find you on social media, the internet, and just plug anything you want to plug.
Yes. All right, y'all. I would love for you to get good sex, stories, science, and strategies for sexual liberation. And not just get it, but if you really rock with it, leave a review because that really makes a big difference for you to tell the rest of the world what you liked about the book. And share it with somebody because a lot of us are dealing with sexual liberation in many ways, and hopefully it'll be helpful. My goal is that this book resonates with people all over the globe. So you can find that book everywhere books are sold. drcandicenicole.com is my website, and you can learn more about my research, about me, and you can find me on the social medias at Dr. Candice Nicole, and Candice is spelled CandiceNicole on Facebook, Instagram, and Threads.
Perfect. I will link all of that in the show notes on thebooniebreakdown.com. You want to know a funny story?
Yes, please.
My name was supposed to be Candice Nicole.
Are you kidding? What?
So my middle name is Nicole. So my mom was
all Black girls born in the 80s. Like that was our middle name.
The Black girl name of the 80s, right? Middle name. And so my mom was gonna name me Candice Nicole. And my uncle comes to the hospital and was like, what? And he was like, you can't name that child that because they're gonna call her Candy. And with my last name, he's like, it sounds like a stripper. So my mom flipped it and put Adrian. So
okay.
But I was supposed to be Candice Nicole.
That is hilarious. Twin.
Yeah, it's my uncle's fault.
Nicole was the vibe. When I tell you, I don't know what Black mama convention they had, but they were like, we're doing Nicole.
Nicole. If it wasn't Nicole, it was Renee.
Listen, and it was Shanae, Renee, Nicole, and that was that.
That was it. They all decided, and that was it. Those are the middle names. And you may have gotten a Marie every here and there.
See, because Marie was a carryover from the generation right before us. And so a little stragglers, they put Marie in there.
But just definitely the Nicoles and Renees of the 80s. Well, Dr. Nicole, it was great having you on. I really appreciated the conversation.
Thank you so much for having me.
All right, that is it for this week's episode. I want to thank our guest, Dr. Candice Nicole, again. I want to encourage you all to purchase her book. The links are in the show notes and on thebooneybreakdown.com. We need to support her. This is her debut book. As a Black sex researcher, psychologist, we have to support. And so be sure to pull the trigger. And if you want to be in conversation and engage with Dr. Candice Nicole and the Ratcheteer Gang, sign up for Patreon. She will be at our book club session on March 25th. So be sure to check that out. All right. Again, the merch code is now live. So apologies again for that. It is season 14 at thebooneybreakdown.com. All right. And if you enjoyed this episode, I encourage you to listen and subscribe to the podcast on Apple Podcasts, Spotify, Amazon Music, iHeartRadio, YouTube, or any apps that you listen to your favorites on. Don't forget to leave us those 5-star reviews. I appreciate it. I appreciate it. Follow us on Instagram at The Boonie Breakdown. Share the episode with those you love, those you don't love, those you fucking hate. I don't make these reels for nothing, okay? Share, share, share. Have a dope-ass week, and I mean this more and more. Stay healthy, stay safe, and stay sane. Thank you for listening, and remember, the ratchet in me always honors the ratchet in you. Namaste. Until next time.